what I found was, because spirituality has always been really a salient part of my identity, even in sport or in athletics, I really saw that as a spiritual pursuit, and especially long distance running. And I eventually got into marathoning, which is really long distance running. So there's a lot of time in that journey where you realize that this is really a process of your spirit. How can you stay focused? How can you transcend fear? These are all things that we do on the spiritual path. So I always saw my athletic career as sort of like my training connected to, as a path to personal growth, but I always did see it as connected to my spiritual path.
You are now listening to the highlight reel builder for authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, best-selling author, and Maxwell Leadership Certified Trainer, DomBrightmon. And you're going to be getting some tips and techniques to advance yourself coming up next. Today's review highlight comes from Melissa Oatman, and she left a 5-star review titled Great Personality and Charm. I thoroughly enjoyed interviewing Dom on my podcast and being on his as well. He is a high-spirited bundle of personality and charm. You won't want to miss this podcast. Thanks a bunch, Melissa, for leaving that great review. Thanks for having me on your wonderful podcast. Awaken your inner awesomeness. That was definitely a fun episode, so be sure to check out Melissa Oatman on her show as well, because she's got one heck of a great soothing, calming voice, and she uploads a lot of content like yours truly. So if you want some wonderful goods, check out her wonderful podcast. There'll be a link to hers in the show notes. And while we're on the trend of podcasts, let's get on with today's episode. And today on the highlight reel builder for authors known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous. Might as well add gorgeous too, because today's guest fits all 4 of those G's and more, baby. That's right, indeed, because we got another super special, awesome human for you today, courtesy of Sacred Stories Publishing, baby. That's right, indeed. Where all the stories are sacred and where the guests have sacred crowns hidden somewhere in their closet that pop up every now and then and radiate like the sun, almost to the point where you might even get a tan. And hey, if you've seen a picture of the podcast host for this show, you know the tan works, because today's guest in particular, she has been in training with her psychology and as well create a wonderful, magnificent step-by-step program which helps women to address the final piece that got us puzzle. So my goodness, and on top of that, she's also an elite athlete, a long distance runner at one point, and she's also an intuitive channel, spiritual coach, mentor, and teacher. So let's give it up for the SZ, the sensational and zany at times what she wants to be, the one and only Seana Zelazo. How you doing today, Seana?
I am so great. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Dom.
Well, my pleasure indeed. That's right, indeed. Hey, it's usually the best part of the show before the rabbit holes pop up.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Well, the bunny ears totally trying to creep up, but before the bunny pops up and creeps up out of nowhere, I'm pretty sure there's a whole bunch of stuff I forgot, especially since your first time on the podcast. Am I filling in listeners for the first time of who is the one and only Seana herself?
Well, thank you. As you mentioned, my background is as a psychotherapist. I am trained as a psychotherapist, and I work as an intuitive channel. And the book that I wrote, the book, The Way of Inanna, A Heroine's Guide to Living Unapologetically, it's really a way in which to capture the essence of this powerful goddess, to help her mythology be made manifest in the now, to help us move from a place of fear to a place of love, and from a place of separation into a place of unity. So the book is really my own connection with Inanna and my attempt to help bring her wisdom into the now. I would also say that I'll give you a little bit of information about Inanna in case there is in case listeners are not fully aware of who she is, Inanna is the Sumerian goddess of love and war. My interpretation of her energy around war is that she is a warrior, and she has the weapons of light to slay separation consciousness. She is has many epitaphs. She is also conceptualized as the goddess of rain and thunderstorms. She is the morning and the evening star. Her multidimensionality is captured in the numerous epitaphs she has, which is something that stands out to me. And really, one of the most beautiful aspects of Inanna is that she is one of the earliest teachers of ascension. And this really marks her also as a goddess of the death mysteries. And that's where the link was for me. Really early on, I was interested in end of life and just had this unusual, I guess, curiosity about near-death experiences as a little kid, and grew up in an environment with a mother who was very psychic. So she just was very comfortable discussing all of these concepts with me. And then when my mom died, I was 19, and I had the privilege of being present with her through the process of her taking her last breath. And that felt so much like I was being initiated into that work. And when I later in life went on to do hospice social work and then grief counseling as a therapist, it was at that point that I connected with Inanna through her mythology and the story of her descent, which was her most well-known story about her death and rebirth. And as I read that myth, I really felt like remembering and a connection with her energy, as though I had been with her before, like I've been one of her priestesses before, that kind of energy. So that connection drew me into discovering more of her mythology and this really deep dive into who she is and what she represents and what she can offer today. And why I love her so much is she is indeed, as my title implies, unapologetically herself. And this is something we need today, especially as women, to just allow ourselves to be great, allow ourselves to, most importantly, love ourselves unconditionally. So this is one of the reasons Inanna has sort of I really felt her sort of tapping me on the shoulder and saying, come on, let's collaborate and write this story together. So, so that's how I got here.
There you go, together forever indeed. And my goodness, and I guess with your mom being psychic, that led to the whole near death experience interest. Because when I heard some of your past interviews and you mentioned you actually use that as a topic in a public speaking competition, no less, like, like, do you remember what the reactions were back then when that was your topic of choice? Was this something for like school, or was it Toastmasters, or what was it for?
No, I think I was in the 6th grade, and I thought it's so interesting. I never, with regard to spirituality, I never really anticipated as a young person that I would be met with resistance. It was when I got older that fear kind of resurfaced. But as a child and as a young person, I just was like, well, this is how I see things. And I wasn't afraid to share it. But later on, as I got older, I definitely felt a little more like the sort of past life energy around being considered heretical surfaced, and I sort of remembered it, and that gave me more pause, but which eventually I worked through, but not as a child. As a child, I was just like, hey, this is how I see it.
So I'm talking about indeed. Talking about indeed. And then went down the wonderful trail to go the athletic route indeed. So what inspired that? Did you just have these great long majestic legs where you can make these long strides and folks are like, you know what? Do long distance running, you'll freaking win medals. Like how'd that even happen?
Oh, thank you for that question. I love that question. Um, you know, I have always been super identified with my body, in the sense of I've wanted to experience it from a place of power, and to see what my body could help me accomplish. And so running was just something I really fell into. I tried different other sports, and it was really coaches who said, hey, you have a talent here. So I pursued that. And what I found was, because spirituality has always been really a salient part of my identity, even in sport or in athletics, I really saw that as a spiritual pursuit, and especially long distance running. And I eventually got into marathoning, which is really long distance running. So there's a lot of time in that journey where you realize that this is really a process of your spirit. How can you stay focused? How can you transcend fear? These are all things that we do on the spiritual path. So I always saw my athletic career as sort of like my training connected to as a path to personal growth, but I always did see it as connected to my spiritual path. And that's one of the reasons I love Inanna, because she is definitely all about her physical. Even as a goddess, she's highlighting her physical body, and I saw a familiarity in that, like in the sense that I too identify. It's my spiritual path is not about, for me, it is not about transcending the physical. It's about using the physical to help me move into a higher consciousness.
There we go. That higher consciousness, y'all. That's right, indeed. So you're that right, folks. That's right. That's right. Seana and this book, they are both weed. Metaphorically, higher consciousness. You love to see.
I love that. Bring it on. Perfect.
So out of curiosity, you've done a bunch of wonderful marathons. Have you ever done one of those 100-mile ultra marathons before?
I have never, that 26.2 was the was the link that I definitely, and it was interesting. It was when I had some goals, athletic goals, and when I accomplished them, I really was at peace with competing. Like once I accomplished them, I thought, okay, now I can start to shift. And I expected it might be a bit harder to let that go, but I think if I hadn't accomplished what I was endeavoring to accomplish, perhaps it would have been. But I was really able to sort of go, Whereas a lot of folks I see move from the marathon to the 50s to the hundreds, and I didn't go that route. I think maybe it's in part because I found surfing, and surfing maybe filled me, up in that way that I didn't pursue. It would training at that volume for the 100-mile races and even for the marathon. There is such a long time commitment that you have to put in the day. And if there's waves, I'm like, no, I've got to go surf. So I think maybe it helped pull me away from that direction. I probably would have ended up in doing those ultra marathons.
Oh, well, all righty then. Sweet. So since you got the spiritual swag, sometimes our best thoughts and ideas come through activity. So my goodness, through your wonderful times of running or surfing, has there been a big revelation that popped in your head, or at least do you have a favorite that popped out in your head while you were doing some wonderful physical activity?
Oh, absolutely. I would say probably my biggest race of my career happened after I had seen a hypnotherapist who was working with me to develop like I had gotten an injury and I didn't want to get re-injured. And this person had completed the session with me by saying something magical is going to happen. And he put that in my head, and he repeated it numerous times. And that refrain stayed with me and I repeated it to myself through the actual race, and came out accomplishing something I didn't even anticipate accomplishing. And it was really, I believe, really as a result of being able to connect with that energy of magic. So I would say that was probably my most exciting. There's so many experiences in surfing where you are just in awe of the majestic landscape, or seascape, I should say. So for sure, and for sure, Mother Ocean will teach you how to be humble, and and she develops an opportunity with you to really read your own, what is right for you at on any given day. Like it might, if you get a hit, that it's not really the best day for you to go out, and you really should honor that, because it's like she's conveying this to you. And so as such, you develop this ability to read nature. And I love that. If when you tune into that and you say, yes, she's saying, come out and play, then you go out and play. But if you get a hit that she's like, not today, today is probably not the best day, then it really is, it's worth paying attention to that. Because whenever I have gone against it, I realize I should have listened.
Oh yeah, that wonderful intuition indeed. That's right indeed. And if I'm not mistaken, part of all of your magic is that you help folks develop their intuition, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, yes, I love working with folks in moving through their own fear or their own inner resistance to their intuition. I love that because the work that I do really is in the private one-on-one work that I do and as a mentor, I really want folks to realize they have the answers within themselves. And it's such a powerful experience to step fully into that. So that's probably one of my favorite experiences working with folks is when I see them really begin to have faith in themselves and the wisdom that they are connected to.
Ah, there you go. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So I guess you help them to develop those six-pack abs of intuition.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Ah, there you go. So what do you think is the first step for, or what am I saying? Think you already know what the first step is. Then again, it probably varies from person to person. So what helps folks to get started with developing their intuition? So it's like, oh man, it's like second nature. They can finally tap into that second wind when they didn't even have the first one.
Yes. Oh, okay. That's a wonderful question. Really the thing that feels most significant is creating space for the time to listen. So like developing just in the same way that you would training for some physical pursuit, create the space, create something sacred, whether it's an altar or whether it's just a time where you sit and you meditate and you listen to your own guides, or you play with crystals, or you play with a pendulum, or you play with cards like tarot cards or oracle cards, but create the sacred space for that time for you to develop it. And the more that you spend time doing this, the just like training physically, the easier it is to access. And also the idea that our intuition can inform us in many different ways, and sometimes it's really subtle. So to always trust that subtlety, because a lot of times we have this some maybe erroneous conception that it has to hit us like a ton of bricks, and it doesn't always. It can be really very subtle, especially if you are oriented this way, meaning if you have had many lifetimes where you've utilized your intuition, it tends to, in my observation, it tends to come in sometimes quite subtly in that way because it's so in a part of you. So I like to remind folks of that, because when you begin to trust that it can come in all different ways, you'll listen for it in all different ways.
Ah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. So it either could be soft and still, or it could be a whole megaphone, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. Sweet. So all this activity and finally putting a wonderful book out there to join the business of immortality, and you shared the inspiration behind the book. Well, how was it like putting the book together? Because I'm pretty sure there's probably some channeling going on, I imagine, with some of the information shared in the book.
Oh, no doubt. You are so intuitive, Dom. Because absolutely, especially the rituals that I have. So the book is structured where in the story of Inanna's descent, she has an inner calling to go into the underworld and make known the unknown. And even though the underworld is someplace from which no one returns, she had an inner knowing that she would. And in order to go through, she has to come to 7 gates. And at each gate, she takes off an item of one of her royal attributes, and she surrenders them. And so the book is structured where each chapter is a gate. And I use one of her myths to contextualize how this similar experience can be experienced in the now. So we have an analogous experience or circumstance that we might be contending with today, like addiction or body image or something like this. So the book is structured with these gates, and they are aligned with the various chakras. And in the end of each gate, there is a healing intervention. It was in the healing development of the healing interventions that I absolutely went into channel mode to bring that through. And that's probably my favorite part of the book is the ritual at the end, because as a therapist and as a counselor, I have observed, how powerful that work is. But then I've also observed from a spiritual perspective how quick and effective ritual is. And it's so fun, right? It's quite different than what we might conceptualize of sort of sitting on a therapist's couch and working through our stuff together. Ritual is really fun and can feel so empowering for the individual doing it and engaging in it. So I had a lot of fun channeling that aspect of the book. And then parts of it were deep research. And I felt like it was like doing a, sort of a thesis on Sumerian literature and history. And so that was really actually so fun for me because, I've been out of school for a little while. So it felt really was working these muscles that I love working. So it was a process indeed, but also I would say that the way Inanna works is she supports you along your journey in healing whatever is ready to be healed. And so for me, one of the things that I experienced by putting it out was this sort of final layer of fear of being witnessed and sort of seen fully. And she was right there helping me along and pushing me in the most beautiful way. And so that was also part of the experience that I had of writing the book, was shedding that last sort of old past life wounding around, myself being targeted and being witnessed as, someone who's, most certainly been seen as heretical in the past and such. So I really appreciated that was a part of my journey in the actual writing process. The writing actually helped me release fear of being seen and heard, and having, to your point, you're describing the immortality of a book, like having my words, they are out there. So that was really a beautiful part of the journey with writing the book.
That's what I'm talking about, Dave. I'm talking about, Dave. There you go. Some channeling, some research. That's right, indeed. Some activity. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. You love to see it. You love to see it. So, what are you excited about now that the book is completed? Like, how are things? It's been a couple months since the book is released, and here it's going to be on audio too.
Yes, I'm so excited for it to come out on audio. And it's been such a wonderful ride, and sort of in continuing that being witnessed. I am in the middle of doing this 12 series podcast. So I love your medium, Dom. And what I love about what you're doing and it's very aligned with Inanna, which is this effort to lift others up and to support others in being witnessed and celebrated. And that's very aligned with the goddess of love. So I so appreciate it. And I love this medium. So since the book has been released, I have sort of been able to spend time, exploring these different modes of communication and artistic expression. So, and connecting with other people, it has created a bridge for me to connect with people like yourself. And that is so beautiful. And I'm so grateful to Inanna for being that unifying force.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about. Days the 12-part series. That's right, indeed. Sounds like you got the media bundle from Sacred Stories. That's right. You get to
Yes.
take Seana on the road in your ears even longer, y'all. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Get in your head. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Between your ears. That's right. That's right, indeed. So, my goodness, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're on these type of podcasts?
That's a wonderful question. I think that I would want to be asked sort of like a question around what would it be like, or what does it look like to live a life committed to the wisdom of Inanna? And I would say, if I was asked such a question, I would say that level of commitment invites a perspective of everything that shows up in our life as part of the training, as part of the ongoing initiatory experience. So every person, every situation, when you are committed to living a life that is really aligned with that goal of ascension, everything is an opportunity for evolution and a training, like a personal trainer present to help you to develop the ability to choose love over fear. So it's kind of like you're always working. Because, and it's just an invitation to be intentional at all times and to hold your consciousness in alignment with the heart. And it's easy when we're tired or we've got a lot going on to slip out of that and go into fear. And when you're committed, every time you do slip out of it, you're like, ooh, wait a minute, let me come back, without judgment of self, but you do encourage yourself to come back. So that's how I would answer that question if I was asked it.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That love over fear. That's right, indeed. That L over F, y'all. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Put the big old heart out there. That's right, indeed. Even if they're heart-shaped cookies. That's right. Just put them out there.
Definitely.
Cookies.
Even better if it's a heart-shaped cookie. Absolutely.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So, my goodness, so living a life inspired by the goddess Inanna. So, my goodness, so we got living a life of love over fear. If you were to put it in, I guess, in a way, if there's a metaphorical cake that would include all those ingredients of living that way, what would it include?
Wow. I would say one of the things that Inanna represents is the second chakra. And her mythology is so beautifully open. This was not a community or a society that was afraid about expressing sexuality. And so Inanna is really all about celebrating her holy vulva. And to me, I read this as the seat of feminine power, the second chakra. So I would have to say the cake would have, the way I would interpret it, it would have to be a peach cake, because to me that captures that, if it's okay to say that.
So it's a peachy.
It's peachy, and it has the sort of essence, the sort of symbolism of ripe, juicy fluid, like just the sweetness that is the energy of feminine sacred sexuality. That's what I would say would be the leading ingredient in the cake.
Hey, peaches are good for you. You love to see.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, besides, who doesn't like feeling peachy?
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So that means folks need to go back and check out the Dr. Joanna Kuava interview. That's right, indeed, from that wonderful Hidden Goddess, wonderful book. That's right, indeed. The whole Mary Magdalene book. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. For even deeper goodness. That's right, indeed.
Absolutely. Her book is phenomenal, and I would absolutely encourage every one of your listeners to get that beautiful book.
Oh, yeah. That's right, indeed. Build your own library, your own collection. That's right, indeed. It'll be brick after brick.
That's right. Structured around the goddess.
It'll be a
Perfect.
goddess invasion.
That's exact. It's time for a goddess invasion. It's good for everyone. Mhm.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So, my goodness. So, speaking of books, and we already talked about food, but hey, if your wonderful book, The Way of Inanna, was a food, what would it be and why?
I would say it would be, I would have to continue with the energy of ripeness. So I would go with maybe mango, the sweetness, the ripeness, but the potency, right? Like mangoes have a potent flavor. And this is the way I see Inanna's emphasis on the second chakra, it holds the wisdom, it holds the power, but it's sweet, it's joyful, it's pleasure, it's sensual. So any food really that has that energy of sensuality.
As I'm talking about, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Mango. That's right, indeed. So it sounds like she's saying, let the man go, y'all. That's right, indeed. It's goddess hour.
That's right, Dom. Perfect. Bring it on. The divine feminine, it's her time to rise. Most definitely.
That's right. In more ways than one. It's like a cake in the oven. Let it rise. That's right, indeed. It's like the
Mhm.
sun. See it rise.
Definitely.
That's Right, indeed. Quite fitting for when this goes live anyway, so it's perfect timing.
Wonderful. That's right.
So my goodness, so if you wake up tomorrow, you're 25 again, but you're still in the current year 2023. What advice would you give to yourself?
Well, I would say to stop apologizing for any way in which you're shining your light brightly. And I would tell myself that there is no reason to fear being great because I tend to live by, or I don't tend to, I aspire to live by the idea of do no harm. And so I would tell myself that I would reinforce the fact that my intention always is to do no harm and I'm doing my best. And so it's safe to stand strong. It's safe to be heard. It's safe to be seen and to aspire to greatness and to show up in full wattage. And because there isn't an intention in me to do harm by that or to cause anyone else to be uncomfortable. So I would tell that to myself because I definitely struggled with that idea and the conflict of what does it mean to excel in anything, and if it makes someone else uncomfortable. And Inanna working through that and developing this growing unapologetic energy within me, it was her guidance that helped me do that, to feel like, wait a minute, it's okay to do this. It's okay to take up space, to be heard, to state what we feel and to offer our gifts. So that's what I would tell my 25-year-old self. I wish I had been able to tell her that. Would have saved a lot of effort for sure.
That's right. Probably would ended up running that 100 miles after all, huh?
That's right. That's I would have ended up an ultra marathoner. Most definitely. Mhm.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Ain't nothing wrong with space. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Because that's what humans are for. We're here to serve while we're taking up some space. That's right indeed. In a good way. That's right indeed. It may have a negative connotation depending on the way you think about it, but hey, it's like, hey, if you're here, we're taking up space for a reason, and that means we matter.
Yes, absolutely.
That's right, indeed. The pun is definitely intended there. Indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. And I know it's also intentional as folks intentionally following you and all that you do and keeping up with your journey. So, for those who need to do just that and more, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Thank you. So the book, The Way of Inanna, A Heroine's Guide to Living Unapologetically, is available at booksellers worldwide. My podcast, The Unapologetic Heroine, is also available on all platforms. And my website, SeanaZelazo.com, is where you can connect with me, reach me, and see what I'm up to. So I so appreciate the opportunity to connect with you and your listeners.
Woohoo. Well, we appreciate you too. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So that's right, folks. Are going to put a link to all those wonderful things that Sean has to offer in the show notes. That way, you too can continue to feel peachy. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So you can feel peachy indeed. If you're feeling punchy, then just think of a mango and then go the other side until you feel peachy.
Yes, there you go. Perfect recipe. Excellent.
Oh yeah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right. And then when you come back, some juicy grapefruits will appear. That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Inanna would love that. I will say Inanna loves beer. This is an offering that she tends to be offered in her mythology. So that's also something that maybe can be added to the mix.
Oh, so beer, huh?
She does.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, there you go. That's right indeed. So I guess Mother Nature drinking has a new meaning.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
That's right indeed. Well, before any more bunny ears appear, any parting words before we close up shop?
I would say just to trust in yourself, have faith in who you are and what you came here to do, and allow yourself to live unapologetically. true to that mission and allow yourself to share your love with the world.
Thanks a bunch for investing your time by listening to this wonderful podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you really did, do me a solid and leave a review or share this episode with at least 3 people that you think would get some value out of today's content. Advance others to advance yourself.